Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode number 425, being recorded November 16th, 2016. I'm Allyn Malventano.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I've seen podcasting before. And you know what? I'm an excellent podcaster. I'm the greatest podcaster. Allyn, this is low energy. And I'm Josh Walrath.
I don't even know what you were trying to do, but I think I might know what you were trying to do.
And from an anonymous hotel somewhere along Interstate 75, I'm Sebastian P.
You probably should have just hung up, Sebastian.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's no way
that
this
would
is
have
going
been
to
the
end
way
well.
to go after that.
Yeah, the intro, set the bar low. All right. So this is a PC Perspective Podcast recorded every Wednesday night at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, I guess. 7? Yeah. Okay, I can do -3 in my head. Podcast at PCPer.com is where you can email us about your papers. I don't think we have the 800 number anymore to call us about your papers.
You might as well try to call it.
Call it anyways.
For nostalgia's sake, at one of these podcasts, we need to pull up that old podcast with the papers, the call for the papers. I think Ryan still has that call saved somewhere. Anyway,
Brian doesn't delete anything.
Actually, we need to find that woman's address and send her some papers. PCPer.com/podcast, Twitter.com/PCPer, Twitter.com/Ryan Shrout. If you want to tweet at the boss, to report how's my driving, I guess. How's our driving of the podcast while he's gone? All right. Also, spam list. Well, I keep calling this a spam list. Not really a spam list. We just let you know when we're going to do a live show. Not necessarily only the podcast. Might be like if we have some people in the studio from like NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, any of those guys, occasionally swing by to have a chat with us. We usually stream them live, and if you give us your name and your email, we will add you to that list, and then you'll just be part of that email blast that goes out before we're about to record something.
And several select partners will also contact you.
No.
With great limited time offers.
No. Stan Sells Everything will not be contacting you. That will not happen. Also, patreon.com/PCPer is where you may be able to help contribute. In order to help us, do the things with the things around here. We're developing new stuff, working on content, trying to spin up better and better. Bought a church, and, because we needed the room.
Did you get to it on time?
Did I get to the church on time? Yes.
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 The big question.
Yes, I got to the church on time.
He was really nervous, though, the entire night before.
Yeah.
Started to get cold feet, and he's like, I'm going to go through with this. I made a commitment. I'm going to make it happen.
Decided it was a nice time for a white wedding.
Now I can do that every time before we're about to start a podcast. I can get cold feet. I can run away. Ken has to go and come get me, bring me back into church.
Oh, I thought I was the one giving you the bus ticket.
Oh, yeah. Ken gave me the bus. Well, we're giving Ken the bus ticket, right? Because he's abandoning us.
Yeah, I've done a great job.
He's done a great job of leaving so far.
Us months ago. You just can't get rid of him.
He's done such a great job of leaving so far.
7 months ago.
Oh, wait, what shirt did I wear? Oh, look, Ken.
No.
He's wearing QuakeCon 2014. I'm wearing QuakeCon 2016. All right. It's like we're working for PC Per tonight.
I wasn't able to go this year.
We missed you, Josh.
We did.
No, you didn't.
No, we did.
It's a lie.
You know how entertaining that call
I'm the
would have
anchor.
been?
I'm the anchor on the boat.
stream?
Holding you back.
No.
Oh, you're the anchor in the pool, dragging you down.
Sure, yes.
Most of the nuclear submarines test their anchor and lose it. The weak link does just that, and then they lose the anchor, and they never bother replacing them. So more than half of the ballistic missile subs on the planet don't use the freaking anchor. So they just screw it. Put some lead in the ballast tank to compensate for the thing. Anyway.
Patreon.com/PC.
Yeah, Patreon.
For all your nuclear sub information.
All your nuclear submarine needs. Anyway. Week in review. Let's might as well just get to it. First up is Moa. Samsung 960 EVO, finally. We got to look at the 960 EVO because it's been almost a couple months since I was in Seoul. It's been over a month. Where Samsung announced the 960 EVO and Pro. We reviewed the Pro a few weeks back. but the Evo still hadn't been out yet, and that's kind of the one that I was waiting on because that's the one that I felt is the real game changer here as far as relatively low cost M.2 SSD that uses TLC flash with an SLC cache on it, and probably, at least on paper, would have reasonably amazing performance compared to its price, and especially compared to its size. And sure enough, we reviewed it, and it did pretty darn well in our testing. So what we're looking at here now, realize the Pro, the 960 Pro, Samsung had to do some tricks in order to fit 4 flash packages on an M.2 2280 SSD, and that is they took the DRAM, which usually takes up the extra space that where the 4th package would go of flash, and they integrated that as a top layer, like a layer above the SSD controller within the same package. So you had like a 5-core controller and DRAM built in all in the same package. Package wasn't any thicker than normal because the die is wafer thin, right, Josh?
Thin little wafer?
Thin little wafer, yes. Anyway, the Evo is not doing that trick. They're kind of sticking to the old formula, which is where you have just a couple of flash packages and you have DRAM that's outside of the controller. So you have DRAM controller, 2 flash packages. There's a little bit of extra space on there. They could have probably done the 3rd package, but they probably just didn't want to or need to, given that their 48-layer VNAND has pretty hefty capacity per die, and they were using it in TLC mode. So you have 256 gigabits per die already. That is a little bit different in the 250 gig model. They have 128 gigabit dies. They're still 48-layer VNAND. But the dies are a smaller capacity so that they can have the same number of them from the 500 gig to the 250 gig model. And that keeps all of the die, like the same count of dies means that the performance will stay relatively high because you have more parallelism. You have more dies present to spread the IOs across. Anyway, that's what they look like. We got sampled a 1 terabyte and a 250 gigabyte.
Nice.
Yep. Specs here, you can see the as far as the sequential reads go, it doesn't matter how few dies or how low capacity, they're all rated at 3.2 gig per second sequential reads, which is essentially saturating 4 lanes of PCIe 3.0, which is how these things connect. So they're pretty much saturating the bus when it comes to the read performance, which is what most people do most of the time. The sequential writes is where you're going to start seeing slowdowns, especially in the 250 gig model, which is all the way on the left there. Slows down to a horrible 1.5 gigabyte per second write speed, which I think still comes in even higher than like the 950 Pro, or at least pretty darn close to it. Realize that is the TurboWrite speed. I've taken the liberty of including some extra specs, which were not on the main spec sheet, from the article, and then you have the after TurboWrite speeds for these models. So 1.2 gig per second for the 1 terabyte, and then it still is all. You keep basically cutting that in half every time you drop capacity by half. So by the time you get down to 250 gigabyte model, it's 300 meg per second.
Lame.
So 300 meg per second, but that's after you've written 13 gig.
I do what I want.
Well, so
I want to write 14 gig.
So you have to realize the 250 gig model, this is not the same cache size as what you would have seen on like the 850 Evos or any of the other Evo models you were used to. Samsung has managed to incorporate what they call a dynamic cache, which just gives you extra cache space. I would imagine they're just taking some of the other unallocated TLC and they're just dynamically running it in SLC mode. And we've seen plenty of other SSDs have a dynamic, like an attempt at a dynamic cache in the past, and they've all been horribly inconsistent, and it just like never worked out right, or when the cache was full, the writes got really stuttery or inconsistent. We actually, this is the first time we get to use this in an article using the new testing, but we actually have a dedicated cache test now, which will evaluate the caching performance of an SSD. And there it is. So dual axis chart, you have your write speed there in blue over time, and then you have the total amount written, and the axis on the right side is the capacity that has been written by the time that cache gets full. It's pretty obvious where that point happens on the chart there. Takes it.
I think I see it.
Yeah, happens right about 9 seconds worth of writing because it's going, a gig and a half per second there. So it doesn't take very long to fill up the 13 gig worth of cache. And it actually checks out that, sure enough, that inflection point on that orange line on the chart is right around a 13 gig point. So, and that was, we run this cache test not with the drive empty. That's important. We actually have some data on the drive. Actually, by the time we do this point in the test, the drive should be right at half full. So even with the drive half full and being in the middle of...
I see that as half empty.
Well, okay, it's half empty. So even with it at being used actively, this test is run in the middle of an entire suite, which takes we're pushing like 8 or 9 hours to run on NVMe parts. The drives had a lot of activity, and if it was a dynamic cache that was not very aggressive at making sure you had all of that cache available, then this test would not have come out to the maximum figure. So Samsung's really good about, if it is a caching product, then make sure that it's very good, not just in the fact that it gives you the maximum amount of cache all the time, but look at the writes. Ken, go back to the screen here. Look at how flat the writes are, right at just over 300 meg per second on the right side of this chart. I mean, it's not bouncing around at all. It's basically just as if that was just an SSD that was meant to go 300 meg per second all day long, right? It's not inconsistent. It's not trying to juggle flash between SLC mode and TLC mode. None of that stuff going on. 600p from Intel was pretty bad when we ran this same kind of test on it.
What was the cache size on that? It was pretty small, wasn't it?
On the 600p?
Yeah.
No, it was a decent amount.
But it dropped down significantly slower afterwards?
Yeah, when the problem was... actually, here, switch off of here for a second. And then...
Okay.
I actually have a picture of it that I can point to. The problem was just that you had a decent amount of SLC cache, but when you did manage to fill it, and again, the argument is it's kind of hard to fill the cache on these SSDs with the speed that they go, but when you did manage to fill it, it was horribly inconsistent. And actually, here is the chart right there. So the half a terabyte model of the 600p had 16 gig worth of cache, as you can tell, right there from the inflection point of the orange line. But then look at what the write speeds did. They start toggling between, a little over 500 meg per second and like
Up
20.
And down and speeding all over?
Yeah, well, the problem
I have
is...
a heartbeat.
Yeah, the low points in that is like 20 meg per second. And it's doing it for several seconds in a row. So it's kind of like you just caught the thing. The problem is that it's not doing direct-to-die writes when it switches to TLC mode on that particular model. Everything tries to go through the cache. Once the cache is full, it tries to empty the cache while filling the cache. And while it's playing musical chairs with all that, the writes that you're waiting to go into the drive basically start toggling between fast and slow. So not a great experience from that particular drive. Anyway, back to this one. Let's see, should we go to, what's the cache look like on the 1 terabyte model? Now this is also pretty cool.
That's a lot of cache.
It comes up to 42 gig. So you would have to write more than 42 gig of data to this SSD, and you would have to write it at faster than a gig per second.
So I'm transferring my 50 gig Blu-ray rip from 960 EVO to 960 EVO.
Yeah, so basically you'd have to have like another 960 or 950 or some other really fast M.2 SSD or PCI NVMe SSD in your system, and you'd have to just, your hobby would just be moving large stuff back and forth between one thing and the other. To even
Hey, don't knock my hobbies, okay?
Listen, I know you like to watch your porn copy from drive to drive, Josh.
I'm not talking about that.
Oh,
But anyway,
okay.
Let's move on.
All right. But see, yeah, you have to realize your source for the information has to be fast enough to be able to fill this thing up. I mean, even if you're doing if you think, oh, well, I'm doing video editing. No, you're not rendering video out at a rate faster than 1 gigabyte per second. It just doesn't go that fast. Trust me. So case in point, if you're writing to even the smaller capacity model, even the 250 gig with 13 gig worth of that cache, you still, as long as you're writing, slower than 300 meg per second, you're never actually going to be able to fill that cache either. So the benefit you get is that every time writes are happening to any of these drives, they're going like a gig and a half or faster per second because they're going to SLC, not to TLC, and not even to MLC because there's no MLC on this drive, but like as an example of, say, the 960 Pro, which is all MLC, right? SLC is actually faster. Now, there's less dies in parallel on this drive, or less packages in parallel on this drive compared to the 960 Pro. So it's going to have like better performance in some respects. But the hope is that at some point down the line, maybe the Evos will also adopt that package-on-package thing, move the DRAM into the controller, put 4 packages of TLC, then you could potentially have like a 4 terabyte 960 Evo, which would be pretty sweet, right? 4 terabytes on an M.2. That would be like pretty phenomenal. Anyway, let's get to the comparisons. So I have the old school kind of spaghetti looking charts here. Realize that all of these tests are burst performance. So if a drive is a caching drive, this will show you the caching performance. For reads, that's not really applicable, but for writes, it's very much the case. So these are all of the queue depths. And again, realize that consumer workloads are on the low side here, like between 1, 4, maybe 8, if you're doing like big file copies and stuff. Pretty much all these drives, at least as far as, the burst, the more relevant to regular consumer use performance, they all pretty much top out like almost instantly. Like QDepth 1 is almost the max, and then except for the case of the 1 terabyte Evo and the 2 terabyte Pro, which have to get to QDepth 2 to hit top speed, presumably because the OS probably can't even keep up. You're trying to move data very, very fast through a storage stack at QDepth 1. Sometimes you kind of need the extra heads up of one more command ahead in order to actually hit that full speed. But you can see the speed's definitely going pretty quick here. 1.5 gig per second-ish for the 250 gig model, and then pretty rapidly climbs up to almost 2 gig per second for the 1 terabyte. And it's just barely underneath the Pro, 960 Pro. So pretty good performance there, especially in the higher capacity. Random performance, I'm going to kind of gloss over because we kind of want to focus more on the QDepth weighted results, because your main QDepth that you're operating at on typical consumer use is like mostly QDepth 1 and 2, which if you try to read on this chart is just, everything's kind of jammed together down there because the results are all relatively low numbers and they're all pretty close together. The reason we do include these charts is to see what's the maximum performance of the drives, even though that's a place where you're never actually going to operate at on the desktop. And you can see the gray line, which is the 960 Pro, is sitting just ahead of the light blue line, which is the 1 terabyte Evo. Actually, you can't even really tell they're two different lines until QDepth 256, where the Evo actually pulls slightly higher than the Pro. Pretty interesting. But remember, QDepth 256 is almost impossible to hit. Like, you have to be trying to hit it. I had to do special modifications to even my own software suite. I had to rebuild it last minute when the 960 Pro came out, because my test couldn't throw the IOs at the SSD quick enough.
Did you rebuild it?
Did
you have the technology?
Yeah, I did. Well, that's what happens when you've coded the thing yourself. So,
come on, let's go on to more $6 million man stuff, dude.
Yeah. All right, so client QDepth weighted performance. Now, I wonder if this thing's going to let me zoom out. Well, I'll just scroll. So here is results that are going to be very typical to the performance that you would see just using these drives day to day on the system. So I've sorted this chart by read speeds in IOs per second. So this is going to be your random reads. You're trying to launch programs. You're trying to do a bunch of things at once on your desktop. Like the population of all your icons on your screen and all your startup stuff that populates during boot, like those kinds of scenarios, like that, those speeds are going to be roughly proportional to the results of the blue bars in this chart. Notice you got 960 Pro at the top, but basically the whole top end of this chart is just dominated by Samsung, right? All the top results are all Samsung parts. The 9, you have, basically 3 MLC units, and then you have a 960 Evo, and there is a reasonable drop down. You're running from, 24 or 25,000 IOPS, and it almost, it's pretty prompt jump down to 20,000. So you've kind of lost about 20% of the performance there as far as random goes, just by moving from the higher tier products to the lower products. So yes, you're going to see a performance drop there, but realize the Evos are, I think they come in at definitely less than a 20% or more than a 20% reduction in price compared to the Pros. So should still be worth it there. Oh, and by the way, I've been a little busy testing comparison drives. There's just a few other kind of comparison drives in this chart.
One or two.
Just one or two. We just put a couple of SSDs through our test suite here in order to. So the goal.
Did you just think of Spaceballs when you saw that? You remember the first scene when the ship comes flying over?
Yeah, and it just keeps going. Keeps going. Yeah. That's not what I was going for here, but that's what the end result ended up being.
If only we had the music, and then we'd probably get sued by Mel Brooks.
Well, the reason I've done this is
that'd be fun.
I kind of like, most people they're going to buy these things because they want to upgrade from something else. Well, it's useful to find the something else in a chart somewhere, hopefully, and have a comparison, like an A/B comparison. So hopefully you will be able to find an equivalent to your drive. And by the way, this is half of the samples that I plan to have in these charts. So there's probably going to be like another 40 or so. Yeah, there's going to be like another 40 or so products in this. Notice the Revo Drive 350.
Huh. Wah, wah.
Remember when that was cool?
And notice why it's so dang low. And in case you want to know why, it's because that SandForce controller that it was notorious for low QDepth performance being very poor. And this is the actual result that you would actually feel. Like, I've tried using a Revo 350 and other Revo drives in the past as like primary system drives, and they always seemed slower to me than even like a RAID of a couple of SATA drives, or even like a single SATA drive in some cases. And sure enough, you've got plenty of SATA products in this chart that are coming in at higher performance. As a matter of fact, the thing right next to that Revo 350 that almost beat it is an SSD 320 from Intel, which is what, like a 5-year-old SSD?
That's the rebranded X25 G2, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
So even older than that.
Yeah. I haven't added the results for the X25 MG2, but I tested that. I didn't have those results in the chart by the time I put this review up. All right, sequentials, same kind of deal there. The Samsung products are all just slaughtering the chart, right? You're talking almost 3 gig per second. And realize I'm trying to be more realistic on the QDEPs by choosing lower QDEPs to better emulate actual client performance. And even so, we still have almost 3 gig per second sequentials out of the 960 Pro. And we're running on the 960 Evos. Even the 250 gig is almost the same speed as the 1 terabyte model there, running right around like 2.3 gig per second compared to 2.8 for the Pro model. So, and all those numbers are just like nearly double a lot of the other products in this chart, especially if you drop down to the SATA speeds. Obviously, you can tell SATA SSDs, most of them are just bottlenecked by 6 gigabit SATA, because pretty much all the way down the chart, it just sits right at like between 450 and 500 meg per second on all those other results. So you're going from 500 meg per second to 2.3 gig per second for whenever you're doing any kind of a bulk transfer.
Geez, imagine how quick Excel will load.
Yeah, it's so much quicker.
Yeah, what's the boot drive on your desktop here, Allyn?
It's like an ADATA something or another SSD, like a SATA SSD in there.
Don't you deserve an upgrade?
Which at some point I actually have to pull out and swap with one of the other samples so that I can test that one and have it included in the chart. Because I'm a nutball like that and I want all of the samples in the chart. Mixed burst testing, I'll just point something out real quick. So this is a test where we have two things going on at once. You're trying to do like relatively large reads, and at the same time you have a small 4K random write going on in the background. It's to kind of emulate like a BitTorrent download, and say you're a gamer and you're playing some game that's doing 400 megabyte level loads. You want to know like how fast those level loads are going to be while you have other stuff going on with your PC in the background, like reasonable kind of stuff. Notice the write speed, the instantaneous write speed of the two Evos in that chart. They are higher.
I'm blind. I don't know what's going on.
They are higher. Okay, Josh, it's the two red bars since you're blind.
I'm colorblind too.
Well, okay. So you got, over 400 meg per second write speeds. And this is instantaneous write speed. Even though you're only writing about 20 meg per second, we're able to measure the instantaneous write speed every time it is trying to do those writes. How fast are they going at that instant? So this is because of the TurboWrite cache on the Evos. So it means that those drives are able to write stuff quicker than even 960 Pro and basically get out of the way, get the write done as quickly as possible so that you can have more time and the controller is free to do other things like read data. And so we actually get, pretty good performance on the reads as well for both of the Evo drives. They're actually just under the performance of the 950 Pro. So in this respect, for this kind of like mixed workload test, they're, in my opinion, better than even a 950 Pro. Both models, both capacities of the 960 Evo. So cool stuff there. Wow, those results really taper down. Poor SSD 320. It was able to write at 31 meg per second.
So have you kept an X25?
Yeah.
For comparable?
Yeah, I just haven't tested it yet. I've got
Can't
results
wait.
on the G2, and then you know what? I'm not sure I've located my X25M, my original one. It's somewhere. I know I've got it because it's the one that I wrote my first article based on the results from. So
I mean, you have it framed and hanging on the wall.
it's
right?
it's framed next to the wafer at my house.
Yeah.
It might be.
Did you do temperatures on these?
So we're looking for the FLIR.
Ah, I see.
We moved, and we were looking for the FLIR before we moved, and moving definitely has not helped the search. And I do not want to mess with the labels, which is why I haven't usually I peel the labels off on these things to take the pictures. I don't want to mess with the labels because the labels have a layer of copper in them, which presumably if I mess with that, it's going to affect how well it distributes the heat.
Have you tried licking one while it was running to see if it burns you or not?
I mean, they don't feel like they run warm at all. And, they draw less power than the 950s. So they're just going to produce less heat generally.
That's kind of what I figured. A couple of people were asking.
Yeah. And I mean, I know people are, here's the thing, like when it comes to heat production on these things, you pretty much have to run a benchmark in order to get them to throttle if they're going to throttle at all. Our test suite for the majority of the new tests, they don't even hit them hard enough to where like I don't even have to have a fan blowing on it or anything. It could just sit there on a test bed with absolutely zero airflow.
Okay.
They're still not going to throttle. My point is, it's not that it's a 960 and it's a spectacular model of an SSD that it doesn't throttle. It's that if you're doing normal stuff on your system, even if it's a laptop in a real cramped space where your M.2 SSD is just kind of like jammed in there and there's no air at all, passive cooling, like just radiative cooling, is going to be enough for you doing normal stuff on your system. Even like hefty Steam download, game install. I mean, these things do over a gigabyte per second sequentials, even like, not just the Samsung models. There are other models of M.2 SSDs that have very fast transfer rates. The thing that's going to help you there, though, is that for the little bit of data you are transferring, it happens so quickly, it's finished so quickly that the drive is back to idle before it has a chance to really heat up. So just keep that in mind. That's part of the reason I haven't been stressing out the thermals and the temperature testing that badly, is just because it's just not something that people actually will will run into as an issue.
That was a temporary problem with the SSDs and those particular PCIe cards you were playing with.
Yeah.
Apart from that was the only ones that we've really seen that with.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it used to be a problem like in the early days of PCIe stuff. I did manage to fry an I/O drive back in the day by melting one of the leads, like one of the leads or one of the BGAs lifted on one of the flash chips on an I/O drive because I had it running full tilt for like 3 hours or something and totally forgot to blow a fan across the thing. And it's meant to be installed in like a server. You know.
Way to go, Alan.
Sorry.
Yeah.
They fixed it. I sent it back. They were like, okay. They even gave me a technical description of like what the fault was and everything. I was damn impressed. Anyway, let's look at some prices.
8 cents a gig?
No.
6.
No. It's not even Ken's 10 cents per gig class. In other words, 19.999 cents per gig. These are running around 50 cents a gig. So, $130 for 250 gig, all the way up to $480 for a terabyte. $480 for a terabyte of the fastest SSD on the market.
Yeah.
Pretty good. You know, it's not 850 Evo pricing. Don't get me wrong, because those tend to run like, you know, mid 35 cents a gig, something like that. So you're going to pay a little bit of a premium, but you're getting like 4 times the performance of that product in a thing that takes like 1/15 of the volume. You know, it's pretty good. The 3-year warranty. I actually had typoed this when I first did the review. I thought it was a 5-year warranty because I was reading the slide wrong, but that's what happens when you pull an all-nighter when you're trying to write a review. Anyway, this is pretty much the way to go. Really, in my opinion, SSD purchases these days, if you want like the top dog, that's 960 Pro right now. If you want to go one notch down, that's this 960 Evo. And then if you're trying to be a little bit more on a budget, I would pretty much just go right to 850 Evo.
What about the 600p?
The 600p is super budget if you want M.2. Right? If you're in a desktop system, for the sake of avoiding the inconsistency issue, right? Because 600p's just do not like having their cache full. So if you're kind of like, if you're watching this podcast, you're probably a power user enough to where you could potentially overfill that cache. Because remember, that SSD does not go that fast in the first place. Right? So, like, its speeds are lower overall. Like, the speeds of these are so much faster that, like, you can't get data from anywhere conceivably, right? 600p, it's slow enough in the first place to where that becomes a possibility. If you're trying to transfer data from another SATA SSD to it, you could potentially overfill the cache. If you're doing like a sequential from like you're imaging your OS from a SATA SSD to a 600p, right? You could potentially saturate the cache on it. These guys, there's just no other single source in your system you're going to be able to overfill the cache in at all, ever. 600p does run damn cheap though, right, Josh? That was your pick, I think, last week.
Sure, it's cheap.
Well, wasn't it like right at 30 cents a gig or even a little bit less?
I think a little less, but not much.
Yeah. So you very, very rarely will find, well, you won't find any NVMe parts for that cheap. So that's
No.
Yeah. So if you're stuck with M.2, you're trying to upgrade a laptop or something like that, you absolutely want, you know, probably the lowest cost per gig possible. Yeah, 600p is the way to go. But really liking the performance out of
Nice.
out of that 960 Evo. Pretty darn good. All right, what do we got? Next up. Who wrote this thing? Oh, Sebastian, who's sleeping in his basement somewhere. Wait, you're not in a basement?
Case review. Shocking.
Sebastian with a case review.
I know.
Where's the IKEA furniture?
At least it's the only one you're going to have to do. You don't have another 8 lined up staring at you.
I'm glad you got that case review out of the way. So
Hey,
you
I
don't
only
to do
have
anymore.
5 more waiting for review right now, in addition to the others that I've already completed that have yet to be published.
Just put the same review up with just different pictures.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Change the name to protect the innocent. And
Like
then
the show notes, just copy over one review to the next.
yeah, basically just cut paste. We have a cut paste button somewhere in our WYSIWYG, in our site editor somewhere, I'm sure. Right? I'm sure that would be a thing. Probably not. Anyway, what you got? NZXT?
Yeah, so this is a case we've seen before. The Source S340 is not a new case. This is a new version of it. They've come out with a couple of updates to it with some special features in the past. They had a Razer edition of this, which NZXT does with some of their cases like the H440. But this new one is the Elite. What makes it Elite is actually got several features that the original Source S340 did not have, which of course start with the tempered glass side panel. And this one's also VR ready, so it comes with a HDMI port with the top I/O, and it also comes with a magnetic VR headset holder. They call it like a puck, and it's a soft kind of rubbery material. You can put it anywhere, metal on the case.
I'm looking for the puck.
You have to scroll down to the bottom of the first page, I think, to look into the puck.
Well, being an American, you should look for the blue streak that goes across the screen with it.
All right. I see the fan, or I see the.
There you go.
There's the puck.
Yeah, there it is. Cool.
So this thing is you can wrap it has a channel in it. You can wrap your cables around it. You can hang something from it. You can hang headphones from it. I know that was one of the comments. It's just kind of a nice extra because it's thrown in the box.
It's two pieces that are held together with magnets.
Yes, so you could move them around if you wanted a wider
So you can
base
have
for something.
Yeah, so they could be separated, and
Yes.
so it's
And
Where's
each,
the
each
lobster?
half sticks on independently, or you can stick it all on together.
Cool.
So you can make some kind of a stand for whatever you might have for it, or like a hanger for things. And it was pretty strong, so it would definitely hold, your average headphones up to about a pound, I think, without any problems at all.
yeah. Oh, tempered glass panel. That's nice. Beveled too.
Yeah, it was nice. It was beveled on the edge. It was pretty thick. Like, it's masked out. So on the inside of it, there's actually black paint, which kind of gave it a little bit nicer appearance. If it was just a plain piece of glass, then you're going to have like the sort of unfinished edges of the inside of the S340, which is a brilliant case for the money, but the frame on the inside, you're going to see like rivets and things. So it is nice to mask out the edges like that. It makes it look a little bit cleaner. But overall, I mean, this is the same case. So I linked to the original S340 review for a little bit more detail on the build. I just kind of went over the interior and briefly covered a couple of things about the build process. On the screen there, as you're scrolling there, you can see the plastic cable guide clips, which are a nice add-on for this Elite version. And the Elite also added a front SSD mount, which other NZXT cases have. It's kind of nice with the full glass window now. You can put any regular 3 or 2.5 inch SSD up front and have it show through the window. So just a refined version of the same case. The story kind of comes down to price. This original version of the case was my pick last year for like the budget case. If you're looking for a case under $70, it still is one color or another of the Source 340 is still around $69. The full MSRP is $79, but you usually find it for about $10 less. This one, the MSRP is $99. So for a case with a tempered glass panel, front HDMI port, and just, the extra cable management goodies, $20 premium on the MSRP seemed like a great deal to me.
And it comes with that HDMI cable to be routed.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
just with the cabling in the case. It's already attached to that front HDMI port. There's a slot in the back. You just kind of poke it out through the slot and plug it into your video card. So it ends up being pretty clean looking. You can see it in the build there. I didn't work hard at tucking the cable away, but that's
cool.
And when it's all put together and it went together really easily, it was about an average performer as far as temperatures go, which is fine because the S340 is a very compact ATX case. Any full ATX board will fit, nothing bigger, but it has about the volume of your average micro ATX enclosure. And with limited volume inside, you're generally not going to get as good of temperatures from your GPU, depending on the type of cooler you have. And I use an aftermarket cooler R9 290X for all case reviews, just kind of for a worst case scenario. And it builds up quite a bit of heat inside the case, but nothing too bad. Like the case coped with it just fine. It put it right in league with other cases at or above this price point. Where this one really shone was sound levels. And it has a thick back panel, and the glass is thick enough on the front panel that combined with the solid front of the case, it was very quiet. It was the second quietest case I believe I've tested with the current equipment that I'm using.
Yeah.
So only the 600Q, which is a quiet case with the low case fan setting from Corsair, beat it overall.
Oh,
and
yeah, you had like a reasonable number of fans in this case also, right? Like,
yeah, it ships with a top and a rear exhaust fan, and
you had a dual fan
with any intake fans.
Yeah, I mean, you had a push-pull setup on the cooler on it as well.
Push-pull cooler is the H75 Corsair cooler that I use for these reviews, just so I always have like a consistent placement, because every case has a 120 millimeter rear fan opening pretty much. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's overall, if you like the understated appearance, it's a very minimalist design, and just basically added a very nice implementation of a tempered glass side panel. And it's a $20 bump on the MSRP is it. So if you can find it at or below its MSRP, it's a pretty compelling value. The only thing at this point becomes just when you reach $100, there's so many options out there for $100 that you're just kind of swimming in enclosure options going through like Amazon or Newegg. But I would say if you liked the S340, if you look at the old review and kind of check that out, or if you are on a budget and looking for tempered glass, or if you're looking for a VR ready build case, I would have to look into it. I don't know if there's anything cheaper than $99 that would offer front HDMI right now, but very impressed with the case. Give it our gold award. Especially quiet performance.
Cool. All right. News post.
And now we'd have an ad if we had.
If we have an ad, I will stick it in post.
Ooh, dirty.
If we only had an ad.
I would stick it in my post.
We're not sure if we have an ad because.
But if we do, Allyn will insert it.
I will definitely put it over this section of the podcast.
He will hot swap it even.
Yes.
This is why you have to watch live, so you get the
you have to watch live to
uncut version
to get this fun stuff right here. Okay. So that's it for the news. I guess we'll move on to, or that's it for the reviews. The reviews. We will move on to the news items of interest.
Take it away, Jane, you slut.
NVIDIA's third quarter up to $2 billion in revenue.
$2 billion.
$billion. You have to put the pinky to over here. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of dollars.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about when they went to $1 billion, it was about 13, 14, maybe 15 years ago. When in 94 they were losing money. Yep. And then by 2000, 2001, they were up around $1 billion. And now they finally gotten past the $2 billion stage. So it just kind of means that, well, I don't know what it means. It means they're continuing to grow and they're selling chips. And we've had a large stretch of time where we didn't have a whole lot of improvements due to process technology. But look at that. That's some scratch.
It's a big number.
Yeah, not only
jump.
that, but I mean, they've they started shipping the DGX1, which is not an inexpensive piece of kit. And it's what the P100 is the graphics chip in that.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Which is, a lot of money per chip. It's got HBM2, all kinds of bandwidth, all kinds of really interesting things that it does with deep learning because of just the serious amount of graphics, compute performance and memory bandwidth and memory capacity for that product. So yeah, I mean, across their entire 1,000 range, we only had the 1070 and 1080 at first, then we went to the 1060, and now this last quarter we saw the 1050 being introduced as well. They've gotten some mobile wins, and their compute stuff and automotive, everything just kind of keeps on building. And that's good for NVIDIA. Maybe not great for AMD, but from all indications is that this market may not exactly be shrinking, but it certainly looks to be kind of growing. And they're throwing their products in as many niches, or caches, I don't know, as possible. So, NVIDIA had a superb quarter, their largest one ever, and the next one should be around the same size as we go into the holiday seasons. Plus, they've got that whole Nintendo thing coming up next year.
Yep.
All
Big
right.
deals.
Good deal. All right. Next up, wireless HTC Vive. That's cool. Check that thing out.
Yeah, but what does it use?
I don't know.
It's gotta be Y-Gig, right?
It ain't sure as hell ain't Wi-Fi, even MIMO.
Yeah.
Like,
Upgrade kit
ultra
will cost.
wideband, maybe?
It's got to be something, obviously, an off-the-shelf thing, just moderately adapted to this, because it's $220, which is pretty darn cheap.
Yeah.
For a wireless kit that would presumably give you. I mean, it's got to be super low latency if you're going to be using it on a Vive.
15 millisecond apparently, which
That's
is not awesome,
super low latency.
but it's not bad.
I've seen there's like two numbers they're quoting, and one of them is good, and one of them this thing's weird.
Yeah, where does
Yeah,
this?
and unfortunately, most of the web pages you can actually find the info in are kind of in Chinese, so it's sort of hard to translate.
Yeah, I think Ryan has had one of these in his cart all week that he can't order because
Oh, was that what he was talking about?
the checkout
Yeah, they sold out in
system
like
is
18 minutes.
Only Chinese.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
But I mean, unless they're doing some hardcore compression, there's a lot of bandwidth splat out into a Vive.
yeah, but you're going very short distance.
True.
It's 60 gigahertz wireless,
So that'd
according
be
to their
Y-Gig.
website.
Okay.
And that
Yeah,
is
it's
very
gotta be
similar
Y-Gig.
if you were into like home theater projection, the projectors that come with wireless
Yeah.
from the base station to the projector for HDMI use a very similar technology. It's basically line of sight, though. You can't go from room to room. It doesn't handle even people walking in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 60 gigahertz will bounce off of like anything.
So I
Which
can-
could
I
be
can see
an
this being a
issue if
bit
you've got your
problematic
controller
because
up above you.
You're moving around with your headset on and somebody walks by or something gets in between you and the PC and you might lose your connection.
You throw up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more or less.
I would imagine that if it's doing that amount of throughput, there shouldn't really be latency on the video feed side, like because it's not going to buffer frames. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. If you're going over Y-Gig, like it's as long as it's not compressing. If it's just going straight through, which it probably is just raw stream,
Oh, I hope so.
if it's over 60 gig. If you're not doing any of that compression or any of that other stuff to the stream, there should not be any added latency other than
But
just speed
just
of light.
from
Like,
the wireless itself, isn't there going to be a certain amount of latency, however small, just to reassemble the packets, like to
Yeah.
actually put them in the correct order?
yeah, but you have to realize that with that much throughput, like the packet size is only going to be so big. So the packet would have to be like, if you could fit multiple frames in a packet, then you would start noticing, that there was an issue. There's going to be probably hundreds of packets per frame here. So you see what I mean? Like, it's not like you're waiting for the packet to be done in order to have the whole frame, right? Like even if there was one, it would be just be like a fraction of a, like 100th of a second worth or something. If you were just waiting for the rest of the data to be transferred for whatever that packet was that had the end of the frame in it.
But unfortunately, that translates into more buckets needed.
Yeah.
if it doesn't work perfectly, that's the danger with the VR.
Yeah, that's the thing. But again,
it's not just annoying tearing. It's
yeah. But again, if you're doing really short distance, it's not like your distance is that much of a demand here. You have to be within the range of the beacons, right? In order for it to work, you have to be like room scale within your room, obviously, not like trying to walk around your house doing AR with a Vive on or something. So it should be able to do it. I mean, literally, if the antenna is like line of sight from you, just sitting right there at your PC, should be okay. I would hope. Yeah, so I guess the proof will be in the pudding. This is one of those things you just have to try. I will say that if there is any lag at all on a VR headset, you're going to know instantly. So it's going to be it's going to be pretty freaking obvious.
We'll have to invent the people benchmark.
All over your rug.
Putting in or putting out?
Yeah. Did they say the battery life?
It's like 2 hours.
90 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the built-in one, and you can buy like essentially a pocket battery with a lead going up to it that'll give it longer length. They didn't state, at least that I saw.
So doing the virtual cinema of the extended version of Lord of the Rings is just going to be kind of painful.
Yeah.
Are they
You need an intermission for a battery change out.
Yeah, you need some longer intermissions.
Are they sourcing the batteries from the same place that Samsung?
Exploding
Yeah,
headset.
They got a great deal on some big batteries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
strap
yeah.
it to your head and we'll be fine.
There was a bunch of excess left over from something,
Yeah, some of them
Fire
are kind
sale.
of like deformed, but they fit in the casing just fine.
Fire sale. Well,
Literally.
All right, cool. Well, we look forward to trying that thing out.
Maybe
if we can
Ryan can get his hands on one.
Yeah, if we can ever get one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tired of standing on the cord for my Vive.
Wah.
Well,
No.
one of you's got to head over that way sooner or later. Don't
Listen, this is kind of annoying because you got this thing on your NVR, you're not paying attention to your actual surroundings at all, right? And then you go to take a step backwards, and if the cord, which runs down the back of your head, it was on the floor there, you stand on it, and then it's the perfect lever to snap your head completely back like you're looking up because the
Come on,
cord
you're
again.
a submariner. You should expect that.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I'm so
Why
used
are
to
you
it.
wearing a backpack PC, Alan? Come on.
Yeah, it's almost as if I was wearing a backpack PC. Anyway, all right. Serious Sam VR. The Last Hope is the name of the game. And it supposedly scales with multi-GPU. I know Ryan was toying around with this last week. Did he put the video in here?
Yeah, he did.
He had a video. Serious Sam Last
Does
Hope.
it have
Somewhere in
protected content in it?
Well, it would be our own copyright, I guess.
So then, yes, it does.
So a single 480 frame times versus dual 480s. And obviously there is a difference there. So there you go. A VR game using dual GPUs. That's a good deal.
and from what he's saying, no blue screens or anything on the AMD card, which is a damn good thing.
Also good to not have blue screens. Hopefully. Hey, YouTube is saying that we're alive.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't want to click that. We'll get caught down like a repeating video loop rabbit hole. Ryan was pretty impressed with the game, actually. I was working on a review, so I didn't get to sit around and play around with it a little bit. But he got some time on there, and he was definitely, doing the Minority Report thing in the room here for a little while. We do need to hopefully get the VR testing area set up properly soon here. But that's on the other side of the room where we have been putting all of our boxes. So that would make VR
obstacle room.
Yeah, that would make VR into much more of an AR. We should just design a VR game that's meant to show you all the crap there, so that you have to actually walk around the crap.
I don't think
Yeah,
you need
put
a game for
broken
that.
glass and spikes and
You mean we could just do that
Razors.
without the VR helmet and just?
No, you
Yeah, it's
turn on
called-
the pass-through camera in the VR helmet.
Oh
and try to
yeah,
walk around.
pass through camera.
You get the wireless thing first.
and
Oh,
give you a
yes.
second latency
Yeah.
and see how you do.
Okay, so then we'll puke.
right.
Then we'll puke on all the crap in the room.
Oh no, just a steady 3-second latency,
Yeah, you can.
so that you're 3 seconds behind where you think you are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All this hard difficulty.
Valve says VR is soon coming to Linux. No way.
Well, as long as you're using OpenGL or Vulkan.
I mean, they're already doing the whole Steam VR thing, and they already have the Linux builds of Steam. So,
So I guess that Ven needs to buy some equipment.
Yeah.
Test it out, man.
yeah, I mean, the only thing left is just it's just software at that point, and hoping that
He's
you're
got to trade in his Pantera though to get the money to get VR.
Oh,
Poor Ven.
he shouldn't give that up. But yeah, so if you can find a game that supports Vulkan, you're going to be able to play VR at some point in the fairly near future.
yeah.
Hopefully not Valve time, fairly near future.
What I hope to see, sooner than later, is the dang Doom VR that we saw at QuakeCon,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
because that was really cool.
Yeah.
They basically the movement thing was sort of the thing where you do a hop, you hit a button on the controller and it draws a little arc to where you're going to jump to. That's how you moved. Because trying to use WASD while you're in a VR and shooting stuff in room scale, that kind of doesn't work. And if you have a joystick and your thumb is telling you to start sliding in a particular direction while you're looking in another direction, that's a sure way to get seasick or whatever you want to call it, nauseous. So their metric was their movement style thing, which was pretty cool, was when you go to change weapons in Doom, how it slows down time in the game to almost a crawl. Everything, the game fades out in the background and you get your little weapon choice circle thing for you to choose your weapon, and then you go back to the action. Well, it did that same exact thing, except while you were trying to point to the place to where you were going to jump next.
Oh.
So it basically bullet time slows down the game intermittently as you're doing the jump to the next place, which looked very natural. And the people that were trying it out there, they seemed to almost instantly get it. Even some of the people that were trying it out, you could tell they haven't even used VR, period, and they were still just jumping right in and playing the game and kicking butt. So definitely was pretty cool. So yeah, here's hoping that we get Valve Open VR on Linux. Cool. The Linux guys are having some more gaming stuff on the Linux.
Oh, the list keeps growing.
Yep. GeForce 375.86 drivers came out. I guess there was a different low memory clocks issue. That's not the same as that power issue that.
Nope. This is a new one.
They found a cause. They're working on a fix. So did this driver fix that issue or no?
Yeah.
Kind of.
But
Maybe.
not really.
Maybe it fixed
It's
it.
game readier than the last one they put out.
Oh, game readier. I get it.
But
they should start using that phrase.
But then they figured it out. It's factory overclock cards. But the thing is, it puts your memory back to 810 megahertz.
Oh.
So it's noticeable.
So it's a workaround.
But they figured out what the problem is. They're going to be releasing another one very soon. This does help with a couple of the flickering that they were having and some really funkin' behavior with folding at home, I think it was.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, don't upgrade yet, but soon.
All right. Sweet. I guess that's it for the news. So let's get into the hardware software picks of the week. Which, as soon as
Let's say we did.
As soon as I
but
open
actually not.
No, you don't want to?
Okay, fine.
Well, I got to
Make some
open.
picks, man.
I got to open the
Like
links.
win.
Sebastian has a pick.
No.
But does Allyn have a pick?
I do. It's just not in the notes.
Yes, cheater pick.
Alan's got something.
No,
he
I'm not
reviewed.
going to do that. I'm not going to do the cheater pick.
You can pick your friends.
You can pick your nose.
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys see
But
the
if you
news
tie them
today that
down, you
the
can pick your friend's nose.
creator of No Man's Sky has left and is now working on Star Citizen?
He's found somewhere even more messed up to end
I'm
up.
not sure you could have written that headline.
Which guy is it? Which guy
Do you
was it?
remember? It was a couple of weeks ago, I think, where the creator of No Man's Sky, and I can't remember his name right now, mysteriously
yeah.
tweeted out some very morbid sounding thing about the game being a failure and not what he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And then that was taken down, and then there were some emails sent out to press from the official email account that the company denied legitimacy of. And now here we are today finding out, the guy actually left the company.
He said his account was hacked. I'm not sure I believe that anymore.
Well, I mean,
I think
you
he
never
was
know.
very dissatisfied and left, and then
I think he might have been dissatisfied and inebriated one night.
yeah.
Well, wasn't there that
He
thing recently?
managed to find a game that's been even more hyped than
Wasn't
No
there-
Man's Sky has.
there was something recently about the No Man's Sky like super limited edition box set thing with the ship prop that came
Yeah,
with it.
that
like,
ain't shipped yet.
still hasn't shipped yet.
The ship ain't shipped yet.
Yeah, so even that hasn't made it yet. Like, I guess they couldn't figure
Oh,
out.
Sony.
know.
But guys, Star Citizen, it's going to happen now. I mean,
it's
Got
gonna be so
$50
awesome.
billion in crowdfunding.
it's like when you have a favorite team, like a football team, and they just need that dynamic quarterback, and you know they're going to go to the Super Bowl. And that's what they've done.
Instead,
It's
they
like Star
picked Tommy
Citizen is
Tebow?
like
The Star Citizen, like, at least those guys continue to show demos, and the demos are improving every time they show a new thing. And like the last one that I saw that was like, almost an hour long or something, it was really impressive.
Yeah,
it's super
was the
impressive
release
looking.
game.
It's just like a game of that scope. Like
Yeah.
how much money would it take, and how relevant will it even be by the time it comes out?
don't worry.
It just-
People keep giving them money.
Well, yeah, because like it just the sheer scale of the thing, like how it's able to scale from like macro to micro. No Man's Sky does it by obvious like tricks and cheats and stuff to go from like the space to the planet and the whatever. There's an obvious transition. Star Citizen stuff, it's just like continuous. It's just like the same world is just the whole universe basically as far as
I
that
think
game goes.
what happened was they're like, we're gonna make the entire universe in this game, and then they're like, wow, this universe, it keeps on going and going. We got to keep making more of it.
Yeah.
Eventually, they're gonna have to accept it's infinite, and it will never come out.
The Star Citizen crowdfunding is up to $130 million.
Sweet.
God.
I think the game should just be free. With that much funding.
Oh no, they're gonna start.
Oh, they're
producing
gonna
more
also
expensive
make
shit
their
to
money.
try and get some more money.
Yeah, that's
out of
true
you.
because they're doing the whole microtransaction. Like you
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
buy
No,
your
if
ship.
you wanna
thing.
start with a
individual
fancy
ships
ship.
and- yeah.
I think they're selling insurance now too.
I don't know. All right, who's first on the pick things? Jeremy.
Oh, I got a wee bit of evil that somebody came up with.
What is that? Poison
It's a
tap.
little Pi Zero, and if you plug this nasty little piece of work into a USB port on even a sleeping computer, it immediately fires up a DHC request or DHCP request, and this little device says, "Oh yeah, the entire IPv4 is through me. Don't worry about it. I got you covered." And now quite happily monitors every bloody thing you've got going, even in the sleeping computer if you've got a browser session open, and even classier, will happily dump a cookie which is able to fire up a JavaScript onto it, so even when the guy plugs it in, counts to 10 and walks away, he still frickin' owns you, unless all you use is HTTPS and signed cookies.
That's pretty sweet.
It's pretty damn nasty. It's called Poison Tap, and as with any of these sort of projects, the source code is up there. It's actually just a little tiny bash script. It's disgustingly easy to pull off.
Wow.
This is Poison Tap.
Yep. That's what I was just
This
thinking.
is Poison Tap. It goes to 11.
Yep.
So yeah, put some glue in your ports. Epoxy up that USB if you really want something to be secure, and don't let anyone near it.
Yep.
And hey, if you want to learn how to code, this is a fun way to do it.
All right. Cool. Next,
Me.
Josh. Hey, that's a pretty.
The GTX 1070s have taken a price drop. You can get them for as low as about $379 plus some add-in rebates, but they're mail-in stuff. So I really like the cooling on the Zotac cards. And for $389, it's a nice card. I mean, you could probably overclock it. It's got all the regular ports, 3 big fans that are quiet. I would certainly look at this. Plus, you get Gears of War 4 for free.
Sweet.
$389. It's nice to get them down from the $450 in just a couple months ago.
Isn't $389 the MSRP of a 1070? What they announced?
Well, I think supposedly, and it's finally hit that, right?
Amazing.
Amazing.
All right, cool. Next up is Moa. I'll have to show you the picture that I took with this method next week. But I was taking supermoon pictures, and come to find out, you can effectively increase the resolution of your camera, even shooting handheld, like at maximum zoom of something like the moon. And then if you do a couple of tricks with Photoshop, you can basically take all the pictures you shot in a burst and merge them all together and align them all and multiply the resolution and actually get more detail out of the shot, because you're basically taking advantage of whatever would normally be lost to aliasing in the resolution of a single shot. But if you take, say, a few dozen shots and you kind of put them all together, you can kind of average that stuff out, and it's sort of like super sampling.
Yeah, it's totally super sampling.
Yeah, but it's applied to photography and actually taking, the multiple pictures, and coming up with some interesting results that actually have a higher effective resolution out of, pretty much like a regular. Here's some examples, and this is pretty close to what I was seeing too. Like, you just get more detail in very small crops of the photos, and the moire just kind of goes away, and so does the noise, because it all gets averaged out, because you're, again, merging together multiple pictures. So that's almost like, the whole enhance thing out of like the crime.
Magnify.
Yeah. Enhance, and then they can read the license plate. Well, in that case, it actually worked. So that's interesting.
Yeah, little did we know.
Can you get the reflection off the registration sticker to be able to look back to the mirror?
No, you can't. You can't double.
You see the guy.
You can't double enhance across the sunglasses and the drop of water across the street.
Allyn, with deep learning, anything is possible.
That's true. That's true.
Apply deep learning to this, and you can actually look at things that were just in shadow in the original picture. Just turn the camera and walk down the street.
Yeah,
indeed.
yeah.
You can see up to 15 seconds back in the past.
Anyway, pretty cool stuff. Might be worth checking that article out in case you still want to catch the supermoon. Actually, my recommendation to you now is, before you read the article, the moon's out. Go out and take a burst of pictures at the moon at like f8 and like your maximum zoom on whatever you got, and then see what you can do with this with Photoshop.
Okay, well, I was listening
to see a lot of raindrops,
and it sounded kind of strange.
What?
Burst shots, zoom.
Take a bunch of pictures of the moon.
All right.
Just take a bunch of pictures of the moon.
Shoot the moon.
And then later, you can try to get some more resolution out of them.
You sure can.
All right. Sebastian.
Okay, looking for something on Amazon, and they're doing their week of Black Friday deals. Right now, the best value in cooling forever has been the Hyper 212 Evo. Massively popular, #1 cooler on Amazon for as long as I've been working here. And right now it's 32% off on Amazon, so $23.75 with free Prime shipping. At that price, I mean, the retail on this thing's $35, but it's usually closer to 30. At under 25, it is just a steal, considering what kind of performance you get out of it and how quiet it is. It gets a little bit up there if you're pushing it, if you're going up to the max RPMs on the fan, but for regular use at idle and load, it is virtually silent, and it will keep any processor, even up to my 6-core 12-thread processor, plenty cool. So it's a no-brainer at $23.75.
Just buy one and put it on the shelf. You might need it one day.
Yeah, exactly. Have one or two next time you do a computer build, I just want to go with air this time. Boom. It looks clean inside the case. If you have the clearance for it, it's not the tallest cooler in the world. It's certainly below like 165 millimeters. So almost any mid-tower case or above is gonna fit just fine.
So there's a Hyper 212 and then there's a Hyper T4 for like $1 more. What's the difference? You see that guy? Hyper T4 CPU cooler, 4 heat pipes. It looks very similar.
There's one that's smaller. It's like a shorter one.
Huh.
Which one are you looking at here?
How
many heat pipes does it have?
It's 4 direct contact heat pipes.
I don't know. The page that I linked to, it only shows me like 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8 heat pipe options in addition to this one.
Yeah, but this one is
a newer revision of it. That may be what it is. Like the 212 Evo is the slightly older one that I have.
Huh. Well,
and
still,
you can get the 2 engine block ones.
Well, that's also on sale though. That other one is also on sale, and it's only $1 more. So
nice.
I would
if it's
look
better,
in.
it's $1 more. Then why not?
I can't tell if it's better, worse, newer, or older from this thing, but yeah, I would look at the 212 Evo or the Hyper T4.
Apparently, the T4 is a little lower performance, according to people in the chat.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. Well, in that case, I will order a pair of Sebastian's pick. Like,
And you know what?
right now,
you can put them on a GPU. Do anything with them.
I don't know about
about it.
I don't know about a GPU or your ice cube cooling or anything, but
Actually, the mount for these is really flexible because it's like an X-shaped thing. You can just like manipulate into different widths, and that's how it fits any socket from 2011 to all the AMDs. So you could probably put this on a GPU if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Cool. Buy it now. Amazon's dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, they updated the app. Now you swipe to place your order.
Why?
like hunting Pokemon. You just swipe up.
Like there's literally a swipe. It's like I'm placing my order. Swipe.
Oh, I sense a new copyright coming up here.
If you stop halfway, does it only order one of the two?
Thank you. Your order has been placed. I don't know.
Swipe with 2 fingers is a double your order.
I don't know that either.
What happens if you swipe with your middle finger?
What happens if you wipe it across your face?
I'm glad you went
Hey,
there. Thanks.
Hey, before we go, Josh, are you doing a meetup?
Yeah, oddly enough. If you're in the Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, maybe New Mexico
Or if you just
area.
want to fly in. for an
Florida.
amazing-
Or if you're on
New York.
lemonparty.org.
No, let's not go there. If you want to join us and Fort Collins on Sunday, this coming Sunday at 2:00 at Coopersmith's Brew Pub, we're going to be hanging out there. At least myself, some other guys. If you're wanting to join up and talk tech and hang out and have a beer and some good food and just enjoy yourself, then join us. Coopersmith's, Fort Collins, Colorado, 2:00 in the afternoon, Mountain Time. Join us.
Cool.
2 to question mark.
All right. So I guess we'll wrap it up. Don't forget, pcper.com/podcast. And
That's how you found us.
that's how you got here. Hopefully.
iTunes.com/PC per.
Is that a thing?
No.
No, that's not a thing. Don't go there. We don't know where that goes. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I'm Alan Malventano.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Sebastian Peak.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.
If you enjoyed this content, consider supporting in-depth technical content by contributing at patreon.com/PCPer.